Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Sue Dengenis, the Director of Marketing for Synchro Software, and today we have a special guest presenter joining us. Benjamin Crosby is the Director of BIM BDC at Yates Construction. And for Benjamin, successful project delivery means on time, within budget, and to the owner's satisfaction. And he believes the best route to ensuring success is through the use of VDC, or for those of you not familiar, virtual design and construction. And today he's going to share some of his experience and how the Yates team implements VDC and how they use Synchro. Benjamin speaks often at industry events, and he's really generous with sharing his knowledge, and he's enthusiastic, has some great experience to share, and we all know how busy everybody is in this industry, so we are really appreciative for him being with us today. So I'm going to turn over controls to Benjamin, and we'll let him get started.
Thank you very much, Sue. Appreciate it. I'm glad to have a chance to be on this morning. Okay, we are good to go. Hopefully there's no questions yet. We just barely got started. What I wanted to cover today was real-world synchro, when, how, and who, with that extra on the who. Trying to get other people involved, I think, is a significant factor for us and for other people using Synchro, and the ability to get more people involved in the process. I'll talk about why and a little bit of how we try to do that, but that is a lot of my focus today, is making this broader, wider usage and more people involved with the process. And so how do we use Synchro? And more importantly, how do people use Synchro? Can they use it to help support their quality program? They use it as part of BIM. You know, it is a great subset of BIM because it's model-based. They use it, you know, as part of Lean, as part of their CPM program. Really, any of these ways, use it to control cost. Any of them work for me. We want to start pulling as many people in and get them to use it as part of these tools. So as I'm getting going, then the first problem I usually have is very experienced construction folks coming to me with their grumpy face and saying, I don't need your new software. I've been doing this for however many years they've been doing it. I've often heard this phrase, this ain't my first rodeo. But those are the people that they're a little harder to work with, but once you get them converted and once they do come on board, wow, I see huge benefits from them. And so one of the tools that I use, I think many of you might have seen this before, it's the Claude's productivity chart. He produced one in 2002, then redid it in 2012. And basically it shows all non-farm industry in the United States. This is their productivity compared to 1964. Of course, construction, no matter how you slice it, any of these different ways of looking at it is decreased. And so, golly, why are we less productive than we were 52 years ago? Well, that's part of the big question, and I think that our ability to plan better, to understand how things fit, and then to organize how they go into place and when they go into place is going to make our ability to catch up with the rest of industry on productivity. And that's what I'm all about. That's what we use Synchro for, is to be more efficient and more productive. And so I want to overlay Synchro on our BIM process. This is how we see BIM taking place, and this is where Synchro fits in there. As we go further forward, I'll lay it out a little bit more, but we take the design authors models, we take our shop drawn and fabrication models, and they all come down into our 4D area where we use Synchro to produce our schedules. And so, and I'll walk you through this process and what that looks like at those different phases, because we really have kind of a little bit different usages of Synchro as we go through this and as we use it. And I'll try to walk those out for you. But what I found is quite often when people aren't sure when and how to actually apply Synchro and take it from being a neat video into a real tool, it's because they're not seeing all these moving parts and how those parts fit together into what we are trying to do. And once again, as I'm going through this, if there's something that I can explain that will help any of you that are attending to understand better, throw that question out there. And we'll go ahead and address it as I'm going and go through it. So I would greatly appreciate any thoughts or comments you have as we move forward. So if we take all of these parts and pieces, we have our models that are being produced. And I use the BIM Forum LOD specification. And we have these different kind of levels of models. And, you know, the model isn't all one level of development. You have parts and pieces in there, but kind of as a whole, we can think of them at a certain stage of development, knowing that there'll be significant exceptions. Our schedule, it grows across too. Our estimate grows as the project grows. Our lean practices change as the project grows. And we have different groups of people that are involved as we're going through this. What we do is we want to try to make as much of this visual as possible. Primarily, the real tools, if we can take and make the model and the schedule visual as Synchro, then the people can fall back in and we can get them more involved in the project, get a higher level of commitment, and get more out of them. So if you're not familiar with the level of development specification, this is what it looks like. This is where you go to get it. You ought to be familiar with it if you're working with Synchro and you're working with these models. And as I walk through the different levels of the models and developments and show you how we use them differently with Synchro, hopefully that will fall into place for you to be able to understand that. Okay, as the basis of level of detail of a schedule, I use the AACE 37R06. You can go get this and read it. It is also something that if you are a scheduler, this is something very good to be familiar with and understanding how this schedule grows. I have a general outline of about what those look like here, but there's a lot more detail to it that you ought to be familiar with. That was the familiar with part, but that's your homework. Get out there and read that. AACE, this is your estimate definitions. Same sort of thing. Their numbers then are 5 to 1 with the amount of information and the reliability of the information growing as you go across the project. I know that graph has a tendency to look like the estimate's growing. That's not how it works, I can tell you. What that is the level of information and the scope. Okay, there's a little more detail on that. That's your homework. Go read up on that. I use the AGC Lean Education Program as the basis for our lean practices. These are the different lean practices that we use to support our Synchro program and to be pulling people in and using them. And these are all the people I'm trying to reach out to. I've really, in order to pull a project together, I need all of these different people involved. And the number one cause of project failure is the schedule. Right? You can lose a budget and still make a schedule, but if you lose a schedule, no one ever makes their budget. Right? You've got to have this schedule right, and you've got to be using it. And so trying to get more and more schedulers involved. That mentality that some people think that Synchro is for the BIM person. I try not to have any BIM people on our jobs. I have these 14 groups of people, and they are all doing BIM in different roles. And so I'm getting more and more schedulers using Synchro to make, create, and validate their schedules. And that's quite the transition in the industry, because there's other software out there that people have relied on for years, but it doesn't have the visual component. And converting these schedulers over, it takes work, it takes effort, and mainly because it takes them trying to learn something new. But once they do, wow, the quality of their schedules exponentially changes. Okay, so BIM grows the project.
Sorry, Benjamin, sorry, one question.
Yes, do I have a question?
Yeah, one question back on the last slide, I think. It was, so you list a number of people there. Are you sharing the same information in 4D model with all those people?
Yeah, when we publish, you see it up here, this the Synchro viewer. Wow, we publish that model out all the time, and we tell everybody, go look at the schedule. We want everybody to be looking at that. I know in the past the industry has said, no, you keep that electronic copy of the schedule close to your chest and you don't let anybody look at it. How in the world are people supposed to plan if they can't see the information? Right? Yeah, you kick out a bar chart, but come on. If it's over 500 items, even the scheduler who created that does not fully understand that schedule. And I know that because I've done schedules for 100 million plus, 100 million, $200 million projects. Okay, so I built the whole schedule, I ran the whole schedule, everything, and still from time to time I was like, oh wow, that's what I did? I really wish I'd understood that better. Now when you start visualizing it and let other people visualize it and see it in Synchro and be able to filter and sort and do those things like they can in the freeware, that's where the power of the schedule is released.
All right.
Now I got excited there. Did I answer the right question, Sue?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
All right.
Yep, that's
you guys catch me on that. Sometimes I get distracted and I answer the wrong question. I'm convinced it's always the right answer. I did the wrong question. Oh. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the feedback. Yes, we share that file with everyone. Okay. BIM grows with the project. Our level of understanding grows with the project. Okay, so now I'm going to go through these phases and walk through it a little bit. This early schematic, you're lots of owner, designer, maybe the GC, but we've got to try to understand the basis of the project. Okay, at this level, you're going to have a model that looks something like this. Okay, I mean, they might have dropped it on top of locations. Sue, I just want to make sure that video is playing on your side, right?
Yes, it is.
Great. Very schematic. This is probably the SketchUp model. It's an overview. I know it's a SketchUp model. Sorry about that. It's just an overview. Everything's hollow. It's just an idea of what this is going to look like. That's what this early model is. At this point in time, wow, we have a model to run with, but when we look at our schedule information, we haven't built a schedule yet. We're just so schematic. All we know is when this has to finish. I mean, in realistic on that project, we did not know what the start date was until a Tuesday when they said we're starting on Wednesday. Okay, because all sorts of things had to come into place, but the whole time we knew it had to be open for Black Friday, and we knew that it had to, phase one had to finish on the 15th of July, and the other phase had to finish on the 15th of August. Otherwise, I mean, who cares about weather? Who cares about delays, strikes? None of that can make a difference. If this project was not open for Black Friday, it doesn't work and everything falls apart. And so, you hear people talk about, maintaining the schedule so you can get your weather delays. Lots of the projects we work on, yeah, it'd be nice to take a weather delay, but you can't do that to the owner. You just have to figure out how to make it. So at that point, that LOD, there's really, you have a level 1 schedule, and there's just not much to model. So I'm going to cruise on past that. This is kind of how everything is fitting together right there, just so you have an overview. And there's a summary. Now let's bump up to 200 to 300. Now at this, we're authoring the design phase. We're going to have a big mix of models on this. The real idea is this is a good idea of just kind of a sample of what these design models look like. These are federated. I've pulled them in. These are different models. I'm getting them from different sources. We try not to create these models. I want this from the architects, from the engineers. I want this from the people producing the information. Yes, we do create this sometime primarily to use with Synchro to create our 4D, but we really push to get this sort of information from the architects and engineers. Okay, at this page, we've got maybe a level 2, a bid schedule, 42 line items, just pretty simple, really. Not a lot, it's here. You see lots of start to start, finish to finish relationships. Very simple schedule. We can't build to this, but it does give an explanation of how we're going to proceed on the project. Now, we also, at this phase, will be dealing also with a level 3 CPM schedule. So now on a $50 million project, we can have 3,000 activities. We can have a lot going on. It's going to be broken out by area, phase, location. That's exactly what we're working with there and how we're pulling it together. Okay, and it's best if we can actually get this created in Synchro with the models. I wish I could tell you we had that on 100% of our projects. We're not there yet. We're starting to do that on our projects. But lots of times we're still creating the schedule outside and then having to pull it in. I hope to change that soon. But you can, if we build it here, it's just more efficient and better. All right, so here's a sample of what it looks like. So this is a kind of a lots of LOD 200 here. Not a lot of definition in the models. Part of it because there's so much remodel, and we do have some models to work with. And we've taken that level 2 to 3 schedule. It's level 2 on all of the finishes. It's actually a level 3 schedule here on our floor slabs and our columns. We have a fair amount of definition there. But later on, you'll start to see long bars with finish to finish, start to start relationships, instead of the finish to start relationships that we associate with the level 3 schedule. And so, but what this does for us and gets people involved is now the owner is seeing what the schedule looks like. They start to understand dates. They start to understand how it's phased. When I send the schedule out to contractors to bid with and know what the phasing and the timing of the project is, we have a much better understanding. And that better understanding means that you get better pricing. Less contingency, less risk. They know that we're going to deliver on time and we're not going to accelerate them later on because of someone's lack of planning. We're going to pull everything together. Being able to see this and understand the schedule. And then, like was pointed out earlier, send the file out there. Filter and sort it. Let them look at their stuff. The best possible scenario is we send that out there and somebody comes back and tells me it's wrong. Because I want to know that there was a mistake in it. I am not a perfect scheduler, and none of the schedulers that work with me are perfect schedulers. And the more people we have looking at it and they come back and they say, man, that's not going to work. Thank you for letting me know, and then get it fixed. That's the hardest mentality to change among people, is they're scared of someone pointing out a mistake. Once you can open that up, it goes a long way. Here's another sample project. Being able to come here, show 2 views, have an early schedule, let people see the flow of it and how it looks. Now, in the last one, we actually had the bar chart going. There was more detail there for people to work with. This one was more of a visual, different group. This was more for the owner and some others, and the bar chart wasn't as necessary. We do have this same schedule produced with the bar chart to be able to show the trades and work with them as well. I just don't want to show all the videos and copies of it here, and I wanted to hit that difference in usage there. What we show when we create the video makes a difference. And then, of course, you have the backup file that's published as well. They can go and open the viewer. If they have Synchro PRO, it's even better, because then they might be editing and sending us back changes. You know, tell us what the changes are. We'll incorporate them. We'll make the schedule better. All right.
I do have one question, Benjamin.
Sure.
With regard to, do you use this for scenario analysis to optimize your plan overall?
Yes. When we're creating this, every schedule we create is a scenario. And so, and we'll get multiple revisions. I mean, sometimes I'm producing 3 or 4 schedules a day. And so we have our naming convention that has a year, month, day, hour, minutes, and we use 24-hour format in that naming convention so that we can push these schedules back and forth, and we can look at the options and find what works and doesn't work. Do you think I answered the right question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. If I didn't, whoever was kind enough to ask that question, please point out or follow up as you would like to. Okay, so at this phase, we have GC pricing or an estimate. Some trades may be on board, some maybe not. We have lots of model quantities to work with. Our lean is kicking into play with target value design, and we're pulling these things together, and we have the owner on board. These are all elements that are coming into creating our schedule and working with it. Okay, this is a sample of what models look like at a 300 level. we're starting to get into details. We have individual columns. We have things like that. We can find, you don't want to worry about scheduling an individual light fixture, but that's what's so neat about these trees. When they come across into Synchro, you can grab a bunch of light fixtures at a time and put them on one activity. You can group them in the right places. All of that comes together in this kind of scenario. You've got some items at 200, some at 300. That schedule is kind of a hybrid, and you use the right level schedule items with the right model development, and you piece it together with the whole intent of this being a visual tool for people to understand and be distributed out there. Okay, so that was design authoring phase. Now we're going to roll back into the next phase, shop model phase. And now some people call it shop drawings. I try to focus on its models that create this information. Because when it's models that create this information, we get a lot more detail. Look at how much more. This is the same project that I showed earlier for the 200, 300. But here at a level 350, 400, we still have some 200, 300 items in there. The columns are still coming from the structural engineer and designer. And so those are still at 300. But now we've mixed in a whole bunch of level 400 things, outlets out for the drainage, some curb and gutter mixed in there, canopies. Let's flip back inside the building. We still don't have actual bar joists, but it is growing, and we're getting a higher definition of our model. That also means we start to develop a level 4 CPM. Now what happens here is, yeah, the activities are still going to be around 3,000. But the big difference here is trade feedback. We have not just dictated the schedule out there, because we've created in Synchro and we've published it for people to look at with the viewer, and they can get in there and they can see things. They start coming back to us and giving us those corrections. And if that HVAC contractor comes back and says, there is no way I can do all that HVAC work in building 200 in 7 days. That is going to take me 12 days. I say, thank you for letting me know. Now, some people would say, no, just get it done. But that's not realistic. That's not collaborative, and that has proven over the last 50 years to cause us problem on projects. What we say is, thank you. We work. We see, can we actually allow him the 12 days? Okay, is there room to do that? Because if we just say, no, get it done, chances are it's actually going to take 12 to 15 days because we didn't plan on it anyway. All right, and so we're just lying to ourselves. But if we actually open this up there and get their feedback and make those adjustments and change what needs to be changed, maybe we have to break the area down into 2 6-day activities so that we can allow the trade behind him to cover and to come in there and start their work and stagger this out in smaller chunks. And then we still keep our finish to start relationships, and we still keep trade flow, and we don't force them to work on top of each other. And then they go in and they can look at the model, and they can actually see their level 400 model, and they can see where people are working and how they're working, and we can start to pull logistics into it. We start to, that's something that never could have been done before Synchro existed. You just couldn't schedule the logistics. There wasn't enough brain power on this planet to schedule the logistics on paper without visuals. But now with Synchro and the visualization of it, you can truly start to do it. So let me introduce you to the building. You've seen model shots and all sorts of stuff of this outlet mall. You've been looking at schedules for it and all sorts of things as we go through. It's 5 different separate buildings that produce this outlet mall. You see here the first 2 coming into play. Simple access, simple logistics dictated which order to put those in. But then we had to come in and put those cranes in place. We put the cranes in place because you're going to start to see some really tight locations. And while this crane path is just kind of showing the cranes moving, I actually spent hours verifying that the crane did actually fit, like right there and right there, that it could actually fit in those locations. Because we had, 18 inches on each side when the crane actually goes through there. It was fairly tight. Now let me go back just a little bit. So the side effect of what happened, I had to make sure the cranes fit and to show a general path of how they worked. Now, the first time that I showed this superintendent cussed me up and down. Crosby, your stupid schedule and all your stupid fancy stuff, and you don't know that we're not going to have no 5 cranes on this project? So I just, all right, thank you very much for letting me know. I appreciate that. So let's walk back through this a little bit. And I started up here with him on the schedule. I think he was still huffing and puffing a little bit, and I said, thank you for telling me that this is wrong. Up here, are we going to be setting air handling units on this building? He's like, yeah, we're going to be doing that. I was like, don't you need a crane to do that? He said, yeah, but it's not going to be a big crane like that. It's going to be a railroad tire crane. Hey, I'm sorry. My mistake. I should have put a different crane in there. I actually was kind of cheating because it was so simple in Synchro to put one crane in and copy it and move it that I didn't go put another one in. Didn't take me that long to fix it for later, but I was just shortcutting a little bit. I admitted, okay, I had that wrong. And then I dropped down here to building, to this building right here, and I said, building 400. Okay, are we setting the precast and setting the steel here at the same time? And he said, yes. I said, are we going to share a crane to do that, or are we going to use 2 cranes? He said, no, we can't share a crane. We'll have to use, and he stopped talking, and he realized it all right there. I didn't have to explain anything over here about building 500. He realized that they were setting steel, and they were placing precast, and that would have taken 2 cranes. And he said, well, who built this schedule? And I said, yeah, this is the schedule that you created as the superintendent, and you and the project manager were putting together. And it all dawned on him, and he understood that what he had done is he had actually seen his schedule. He had known they could only have 2 cranes, but all the time in his mind, that was 2 cranes per building. And when you start getting these separate buildings, you start getting 3,000, 4,000 activities in a schedule to tie all those back together. Now, yes, we could have resource loaded every activity in the schedule and done a whole bunch of resourcing and showing all of that. But really, to get a superintendent or to get project managers to sit down and analyze that, it's a people issue. They don't want to sit down and read all those reports. But when I made it visual, he saw it. We fixed this project. We saw this early on enough. It was a simple solution. We worked overtime on building 200 and 300 on footings and foundations very early on when it hardly cost us a thing to do it, to put that overtime in. And that accelerated our access to building 400 and allowed building 400 to finish on time, so the same 2 cranes went from 400 to 500 when we were done. That's exactly what I'm talking about. In reality, otherwise, project would have been done on time. We wouldn't have had it take place, or maybe we'd have been working those night shifts on finishes, because you can't erect steel on night shifts. You don't have the lighting. You can't do it. And so we'd have been back into finishes where it cost us a lot of money. Successful project, things went well. A major attribute to the success of this project was our use of Synchro, and that scenario right there, along with the 5 or 6 other times they came back to me and told me, hey, stuff's wrong. Great, let's fix it. All right, any thoughts or questions? I know I told quite the story there. I get more involved in the story sometimes than the details. And so if you have any thoughts or questions, send them in and we'll address them. Okay, now here's another usage. Once again, now we're at level 400. We're at a fabrication level schedule, producing 6 weeks look-aheads so the trades can dig in and see it. Now I like showing this one because it's a poor presentation on a webinar. Nothing's happening here. Everybody watching this is looking right now trying to figure out what in the world is even changing. That is perfect for a 6-week look-ahead. These guys out there saw this 6-week look-ahead and they said, how come nothing's happening? We said, because none of you are doing much work during this period of time. They said, why not? Because you're all over in the other building on this campus. So let's get you back in this building. Where are your trades? Where are your crews? Why couldn't we be doing more work in this building during that period of time during the 6-week look ahead? And we were able to get more people in there and get this building done faster. Those are the sort of things that cause great conversations. you produce the schedule, you publish it, and when people look at it, then they start to see things. Thoughts or questions on this schedule? Please send them in. This is an idea of what your models look like at that 400 level phase. These were the models we were working with. This is another project right there. It was the other part of that one I just showed you. Lots of detail. Steel is in there. All of the trusses are up there as pieces. And you can see that this is the federation that took place in that model. All of these different files were in there. All of them were then pulled into Synchro. And yes, the Synchro is heavy. And, you know, and you had to work with it. You had to be patient with it a little bit, but it was well worth the effort. And of course, filter it down a little bit. So now we are 350, 400. Our schedule, level 4, we've gotten that feedback. People are buying into this schedule. They're building the schedule. They're using it. We love it. We're really getting into our last planner pool planning in order to create this level 4 schedule. And we're visualizing it. The trades are all in there. Everybody's on board. The owner, they're looking at the schedule from time to time, but they really just want their building built. Okay, that's what was happening at 350, 400. Now, let's start rolling into the last phase, field installation, actually getting out there in the field. Getting it to where you have your Synchro model and your steel erection, and you're actually taking pictures and comparing them back and forth to verify. Yes, we are on track. We're where we need to be. Now, you can do that with the schedule update and things like that, but when you can produce a picture like this and publish it for the team, they love it. We're on track. We're ahead of schedule. We just haven't had the schedule problems that you used to have to deal with and overcome in the past. Now we just meet the schedule or even beat it. But now with this, at that field installation, you start talking about a level 5 CPM. Now, they'll do a level 5 CPM all day back and forth for shutdowns. But I personally haven't been involved in a lot of shutdowns. And so what does level 5 mean to me? My level 5 comes off of the piece of paper. It's too much to run that in the schedule itself. Okay, this is where our lean last planner comes into play, and that's where we implement it. So we have our last planner board. People are up there. They're putting up their Post-it notes. They're scheduling day to day. And just before they get up there to do this on a regular basis, we're showing them that same 6-week look ahead. We're walking them through the schedule to say, hey, this is what the schedule says we're doing. And then they have a better understanding of the own schedule coming up over the next 6 weeks. I'm not waiting for them to flip through a bar chart. And then they come up here on the wall and they make real adjustments based on that schedule. Then you have a scheduler, a project manager that's tying those adjustments back into Synchro so that it's ready to go for the next week. But we're keeping them involved and we're really working them. And the subs, the trades, absolutely love it. Here's another one, taking the actual schedule and pushing play on it with the baseline versus the current. And you can see the actual, it's ahead. They started that earthwork ahead of time. They came in, they started going in here. They'll start seeing the footings and some of the walls appear ahead of time. They were doing great. Everything was going wonderful till they got to the first slab. Now you can see nothing's happening on the actual. It was like an extra 2 weeks in there. There was questions that hadn't been resolved on those slabs. So then the real part of this one that was magic for us was we get here. And the team says, yeah, we're caught up. Because they got caught up on their slabs. But were they actually caught up? No. This video showed them that, yes, they caught up on the slabs, but in their effort to catch up on slabs, they had not caught up on their enclosure. Now, all of a sudden, it's visual. Now they understand it. So they're feeling like everything was good, but we showed them it's not as good as it should be. We can do a little bit better. So then we roll forward, and we go back to our last planner system, and we hit it up again, and we dive into our weekly work plans, and we start talking about why did we not have things done, what can we do to get things done, how do we make that happen, with an entire focus of this idea, install per the model documents or take it out. Follow the CPM schedule, follow the Synchro schedule, be involved in it, understand what's going on your project. We are in the field. We've figured all of these things out. All you have to do is make it happen. and the last planner takes away a lot of the field issues that then come up, things you can't put in a schedule. Like one project they were driving piles early on in the project, had the pile rig there. The guy that was operating the pile rig had a heart attack. I mean, it was just, nobody can anticipate that. It took 2.5 weeks to find somebody else that could operate that rig. We were down 2.5 weeks on that project and on that schedule. So how do you overcome that? Well, by taking and having the Synchro there for people to understand it, know their schedule, and then turn around and put that on a last planner board, we actually real time over the next 3 months recovered that 2.5 weeks because people understood the schedule and were following it because they could see it. So, installation. We're at a level 500. Our schedule, we've got level 5, and it is highly visual. We're talking about last planner. We've got our foremen, our superintendents up there. We know what our pricing is. We're making sure that we're not spending extra money on overtime. We know what we're doing. We're spending the money where we want to spend the money. It's all coming together for us. The contractors are all on board. The GC's on board. The owner is getting the project they want. So as our model grows with the project, Synchro comes right in here. And we sync that with our field installation. We sync that with our models. We sync that with the fabrication level information. We pull all this together and use it as a common hub of information to get people involved. Here's kind of an overview of the individual slides that I'd walk through. Everything kind of fits in its place and lines up. Early on when I was getting started, I kept trying to take a level 4 schedule and work with a level 100 model and do all those sort of things. Once I started to line this up, things came together. Because as that schedule grows and Synchro comes into play, we use this to bridge the gap and get the communication out in the field. So then we start to see all of these people getting involved. In the past, I probably would have had some project management in the schedule, some superintendents, a few of my contractors and consultants, and the schedulers. But when I can take and play that in a 4D scenario, I start to have all of these people in there. And all of these people start to get involved, and they start to improve my schedule. So as far as I'm concerned, Synchro is making the difference for us. Okay? It's getting people to understand the information. It's getting us the efficiency and the productivity that we're after, and pulls it all together. And so what we start ending up with is clients that are exceptionally happy with us. And so if we were in an interview with the clients, getting ready for some stuff, and we asked him, what is your thoughts on all of this BIM stuff that we've been doing and all this schedule stuff we've been doing for you? And this was his comment back to us.
I don't think there should be any doubts, having gone through it, that you would use more BIM.
So what he was saying is dig deeper. Do a little bit more, apply it, get more people involved, and really use it. And so that was the information that I had for today. Sue, were there any other questions that have come along, or any questions that you guys would like to add in as a follow-up to finish up what we're talking about this morning?
Okay, we do have a question here. Would you maintain exported 4D videos or push for the use of OpenViewer?
Both. I go for both. I do the exported videos because the viewer allows people to dig deep. But if someone doesn't want to dig deep, if they just need a quick understanding, they can look at that video very quickly. But then that project manager for my curtain wall company that's going to be doing all of that work around there, they want to dig deep. They want to be able to look at their curtain wall and open the viewer and see how much they're putting in within each week to make sure it's stocked and ready to go. Get him the open viewer to dig deep.
If you have any further questions, Ken, let us know. I think that's it for now. We really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, and that was a fantastic overview on the way you guys use Synchro and what it's doing for you. Hopefully inspire some others to do the same. But thanks so much for your time, Benjamin.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a great weekend.